I'm still thinking about the caged system, and let's work on the first pattern, which is the C shape. So you all know the C chord, I'm sure. There is a scale associated with that shape. It would be like this. That's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You might have discovered that pattern on your own or from a book. That is good. And maybe you associate it with that chord. I remember when I was a teenager not really knowing what a scale was, but I knew that made sense. And I maybe associated it with the C chord, but I didn't really have a word for calling it the caged system. So, is that pretty pretty obvious for a lot of us, I'm sure. But if you didn't know, I just want to fill in the gaps because you are going to want to move that up the neck. So you've got your scale, which you can extend beyond just the C to C. You can take it down through the full range. That was a C, B, A, G, F, E, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then we can take it higher from this C up to G. C, D, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C. Sounds pretty funny. I took vocal lessons and we would go like, I can't remember, like, stuff like that. Then we go up a fret. Boy, I need lessons. But so you'll find countless melodies, exercises, phrases, whatever you do with music, you'll find them within that scale. Let's do the arpeggio, which would be like this. That's C, E, G, C. And ascending, now descending is C, G, E, C. Which is pretty obvious, I'm sure. But again, we can extend into our lower and higher than the C to C. From C to shining C. How about this? My hair's tangled up. Ugh. I was out weed eating today. They're delicious. Alright, so if we take it from low to high, you got low E. That's our major third. The G. That's a fifth. And your C. That's the root to the third. That's E. The G is the 5. C is the 1. E is our third. And G is the 5th. Ugh, tangled. Ah, maybe I got a cockleburr in my hair. It looks like it. That's for sure. Ah. Remember, we're going to move that up the neck. So with open strings, it's about as easy as it can possibly be because, God, what is going on? Oh, yeah, there is something in there. Ugh. Probably, I was blowing chunks of garbage everywhere. Probably something tangled up in my clown hair. All right, I'm going to ignore that. So you got your chord, scale, arpeggio based on C, and every caged will be the easiest down in the open position. When you move it up is when it gets kind of hard. So let's say we take that C up a whole step to D. Now, no more open strings, so the scale's going to be like this. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. Notice I'm using 4 fingers. And then if we go down to the lower notes, so that's our, what do we got? C sharp, B, A, G, and F sharp. F sharp is our third, which is really cool if you're looking for a note to play in D major. That major third is pretty cool. Did we talk about the higher notes? That's A, G, F sharp, E, D. And our arpeggio. So we have to, again, scramble because there's no more open strings. But once you get over that, the advantage is that you can play it in all 12 keys overrides that convenience of the open string somewhat. So what do we got here? Arpeggio. Did we say it already? D, F sharp, A, D. If we keep going, F sharp, A, and you get these nice kind of patterns. I think the arpeggios sound really good. I love them. So down low, again, F sharp is our third, A is the fifth, D is the root. Oops. Great. So, you know, some people can really rip on those. Oh, I think my hair is tangled in my necklace. That's the problem. Ugh. There, much better. I think. Ugh, gross. And of course, once you learn the shape, you don't have to know every note. So if we say, let's make D sharp, I'm just going to go. So what are the notes? I don't care. But I can tell you, it's D sharp, F, G, G sharp, A sharp, C, D, D sharp, F, G, G sharp, A sharp, A sharp, G sharp, G. So G is the third of D sharp. So it's good to know the notes, but again, you can kind of just cruise on the shape. So I'm more of a shape man myself, but I do care about every note. If I had to communicate it, you know, it's very good to be able to break it down and explain like why that note. Like when I was playing with the Baldy Holly band from England on the bass, maybe if the song was in D sharp, they might have said, whoa, hold on. What is that note you just played? Why did you play that? I'm like, dude, that's the third, which you can substitute for the root and you get some variety. And they were like, what's the third? I mean, I think they knew, but maybe not. You can totally substitute a third for a root in certain instances, and it will sound different. I was glad that it caught their ear and we could discuss it. I'm not sure they really think about those kinds of intervals, but I do. So like, let's go up to E. That G sharp is the third. So I might, instead of just going dum 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 dum, I might go. Putting that third in, it kind of makes it climb. It's like kind of majestic. It pushes like an ascending kind of quality. It's going up, maybe, perhaps. It can sound majestic, I think. So here's an E chord shaped like a C, and put that third in there with my thumb. It sounds kind of noble and regal and fancy. You know, if you had a capo there at the 4th fret, you could just play a C and maybe bang on that 6th string, which would be open with the capo, and be just like when you hit a C chord with an open E string. A lot of times students will like, I'm like, excuse me, but we normally you don't include the low E string with that, and they're like, oh, thanks for telling me. Then they go back down. It's all right, but it is musically correct. But the reason I call attention to it is because it sounds a little boomy with the one E here, one here, and one there. It's like, is it, what E chord is that? You know, it's really a C chord with 3 E notes, so the E's kind of overpower it. So use that sparingly. So I was putting in some thirds there in the bass, just off the top of my head. So yeah, the C chord shape moves up the neck, and you really, as you go, you have to, let's make an E here. So that's pinky, ring, middle, index. Index is laying flat, and you got a nice D shape here combined with a C shape here. And if you want to be interesting, throw in that third, or you can put a 5th in the bass, and there you're going to get your scale. There's F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, and within all of those you'll have your scale, arpeggio, and chord, and you can alter them, or color them. If you want to make it I'm sure you can make a dominant 7th, or you could make a minor, or minor 7th, or minor, you could do a 9th chord. I don't know. You could probably do anything with them. I really, I'm not sure I do that quite as much, but I'm sure you could, if we had a book on CAGED, it would show us, well, in Barrett Tagliarino's book, Chord Tone Soloing, he does show the minors, the dominant 7ths, minor 7ths, augmenteds, and diminished. So that's a book I recommend. If you've started the book and put it down, maybe it's time to pick it back up and dig into the arpeggios which shows the CAGED system. I think you'll have scales, arpeggios, and chords, but I totally use that if I'm soloing over something more melodic, or B-sides, just a 1-4-5 or something. But turns out most of my stuff is so basic that I play, I don't hardly need the chord formulas anymore much. I just play really simple stuff, but it is worth studying. So if I had a different gig where I had to really dig into my chord formulas, I would use them more. All right, so that's a little bit about pattern 1, the C chord shape. So just start with your C chord, maybe do the scale, and you're in business. Then if you want to do a little more, arpeggiate that shape, and that's pattern 1C. Where it's going to get hard is moving it up the neck, and I can see where you could get a little flustered or frustrated with if you're not used to that. So don't feel bad about that. Just keep it in mind. The CAGED system takes some work, but it totally opens up the guitar to playing in all 12 keys. So if you need a little extra help, just make a comment. If you want me to break any of that down slower or more carefully, I will. Of course, then you're going to have your A shape, G shape, E shape, and D shape. So that would be the next step if we kept going with this. I've already made quite a few videos about CAGED, but I'm kind of going a little slower, a little more thorough. Maybe I'm slightly more organized, probably not, but I'm trying. All right, we have some lessons today. A few little technical things to take care of, and thank you. If you please ask if you have questions. And this is my 60s Mustang, which has been refretted, but it's got kind of high action. Maybe I'll tweak this tonight. All right, adios.